you know the truth is that it's you know it's all on you. You know you get to choose, yeah. So what you gonna do? Because it's all on you. Take it to your purpose, 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 purpose.
Greetings, good people. Good to see you out there. Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. We are taking you through Measure RB today. Measure RB for Redondo Beach. Listen, we have some great people here to talk about what's going on with this measure, how much it's going to cost you, why it's even happening, and how you should be processing the information that you get. So we're going to get right into it. We have a special guest, another amazing active resident here today, Miss Marie. She's going to read to you the actual ballot measure that we are going to be talking about today. So if you can see that, let's go ahead and get into it. Marie, introduce yourself, let the people know a little bit about you, and read this to the people.
All right. Thank you, Tonya, so much. I am Marie Puterbaugh, and I am currently working with Beach Cities Health District for Measure BC and now to Save Beach Cities Health District. So I'm more a volunteer. I soldier. I'm very proud to help get Paige elected. That's really sort of when I got really involved and I became really good friends with Mariam. And so I like to speak when I can. So I am going to read, we're here to talk about the ballot title for Measure RB, which is as follows: the proposed charter amendment. Shall the measure be adopted? 1, amending the Redondo Beach City Charter sections relating to, quote, major changes in allowable land use, end quote, in conformity with a Superior Court ruling that the voter approval requirement of the city charter shall not apply to an amendment to, comma, or update of the housing element of the city's general plan, or the zoning changes contemplated by the draft housing element, and 2, changing the requirement that the sample ballot materials be, quote, mailed to made available, quote.
Okay. Marie, can you tell us what that means in layman's terms?
No, but basically what I'm doing, it's okay. The first part, I'm voting to take away my vote. So Redondo voted, and I think it was Measure BB, that residents should vote. We should all have a say. We need to vote. So we're voting to take away our vote for, not for everything, but for major changes in allowable land use to conform with the court. So basically what I understand this to be, and again, this is confusing. I am not a lawyer like you. Basically,
it says right there.
No, I'm not, like you put not a lawyer in your thing, so that's what I meant. Basically, the state of California is saying, look, everybody's got to do their part. We have a lot of homeless people. We need more affordable housing. So Redondo doesn't get to build a wall around it and say, no, thank you. We'd like pickleball courts and parks. We're not going to do that. So the state of California is going, look, everybody's got to do their fair share. So what this is saying is, look, we voters, if they say no, it's not an option. So we're voting to take away the vote. Why are we doing this? Now, if I recall correctly, and again, I don't want to get sued for libel or anything by anybody listening to this. So if my memory serves me correct, I believe I was at the city council meeting for some random reason. And the intent of Measure DD was to have local control. However, if local control results in voters not approving a housing plan, we are out of compliance. And there is some lawsuits, which is vague, but my understanding is it's builder's remedy. If our plan is out of compliance, that opens up the door to builder's remedy, which basically says, okay, Redondo, you don't have your act together. You're not playing nice. California is going to come in and do it for you. So that was the motivation for this. Had we not been at risk of builder's remedy, perhaps we wouldn't be doing this. So it takes away our vote, and the goal isn't some nefarious, okay, forget it, we don't want your vote. It's saying, look, if you guys vote and you don't agree to this, we're more at risk. So that would be it. So, okay. So that is my understanding of what it is. So you're voting
Yes.
to take away your vote, but the reason you're doing it is to quote unquote protect Redondo.
Peter
Does that
said
make
use the
sense?
word. Peter said use the word allegedly to protect
Allegedly, I've tried to
ourselves.
use my opinion. I've tried to say it in every
Okay.
way. But
This,
again, that's how it is in Redondo. If you use the right word, I'm a resident, yada, yada, I could get crucified. You know what I mean? Because in Redondo, everything's a lawsuit. So got to be careful because I don't want somebody suing me for saying the wrong thing.
and this is just our opinion. We're just neighbors talking.
Yes.
So, but in for that reason, I have to say I made some public statements that were very incorrect regarding this, and it has to do with the history of it. So a court did not find that the council lost or violated the charter. It was a court case that is on appeal right now that is saying it violated the charter, and an Article 27 applies to the council along with everybody else in the city and any developer when they made all these major changes for the housing element. And then I also said that Jim Light wrote this measure. He did not. He wrote the original measure DD, which turned into Article 27. Our city attorney wrote this measure RB, and it's good. That's his job to do that. And so he did that. But it is, and I reached out to both Jim Light and to the city attorney, Mike Webb, and they both got back to me in certain ways to answer some questions. But I will say that this issue and Measure RB takes so much pre-knowledge of what the situation is. You need to know what the housing element is and what it means. You have to know what builder's remedy is and its implications. And you have to understand what Article 27 is, which was Measure DD, back from 2008, I think it was. So if for the average person on the street, it is almost impossible to understand this. It really is. The words just go by people. I just had it explained to me, and it's still seeping in. But for the most part, or for the overlying thing, and this is where we're all on the same page. In layman's terms and in practice, the Measure RB will remove the right of the citizens to vote on zoning changes made by the city council in trying to comply with state mandates. So you have to kind of understand that. But that is what it is. And I got a message from Mayor Light, and he posted it publicly. And along with a lot of other things he said, it does remove the the requirement for a vote. And I'll look this up and I'll when you guys talk. But it does.
Paul, you're hitting them on the head, right? Yeah.
The thing is everybody that is talking about this, it says it aligns our city charter with state mandates and all this just legalese that doesn't make sense to anybody. So we're trying to boil it down to what does this actually mean? And, in our opinion, and that's the thing, it's just, and the screwiest thing about this, because the cases are on appeal, or the case is on appeal, we could have this vote and it may not matter. We could, win or lose. The state may just say, no, the state does what it does. And the local, the local ordinance doesn't apply to state concerns. So it's still a very, very screwy legal situation we've got ourselves into. And the one thing, it's not the only thing, but you could say this is an unintended consequence of Measure DD and Article 27. The thing that we created this ballot box zoning, and that is exactly what Article 27 is. You go to the ballot box to vote for zoning. It is ballot box zoning, and I don't think that's a very good public policy. So that's where we're at. And I would love to hear if somebody complains about what our interpretations are. I'd love to hear their interpretation of this and challenge them and see if they want to get sued with what they say.
Here's the thing. For residents, I think it's important to understand that when new laws and regulations come into play, most of the time it should be something that the residents actually ask for. No one asked for this. So you have to look at the motives. Why is this now something that's being put on the ballot? Who is this benefiting? And I think if we take a look at that, and also the state of our city, there you get a better understanding about why this is being proposed. I am voting against it. I don't trust these people. Our city has been shuttered. Our peer is horrible. And they continue to put things in place that stall growth. You have to ask why. Why did we spend all this money on GPAC to still wind up in this situation? We literally spent years lining up, talking about, and coming to conclusions on why we or how we should build our city. But every time we turn around, even with Beach Cities Health District, they're putting blockades in the way of growing this city. It is a pattern. And when we look at patterns, if we don't like the direction that we're going, at some point we need to start making different decisions.
100%, because I too will be voting no, because it does take away the right of the citizens to vote on the zoning, to Paul's so this is a very difficult thing to read. Nobody understands it. It's like all this stuff, unless you're knowledgeable about this, that, and the other thing, to Paul's point, it's very difficult to understand. But one thing that is very clear is that it does take away the power of the people to vote and puts it in the hands of city council, which I don't trust. So I will be voting no. And to Tonya's point, that is why we have so many ballot measures. Fire, police, FP, Beach Cities Health District, Measure S. We don't have any money in the city because our growth has been stifled. And at some point, now it's come to a head. It's like, hey, we need to upgrade all these things. We barely have money to even make the city function. We have record revenue, but we also have record expenses. So we don't have any extra money to do anything. And as a result, the citizens are going to have to pay. So we are going to have to decide, are we going to vote yes? What are we going to do? I'll be voting yes on FP, B, C, and S because these are necessary upgrades needed for the schools, the fire, the police, and Beach Cities Health District, but I will be voting no on RB. That is for sure.
A no vote, and the implications of a no vote is, in my mind, is that it will just make the council have to work harder. They're going to have to create, and yes, housing elements will have to be voted on. There'll be this year-long window of we're waiting for this case to get resolved, the case of an appeal. It's going to be very, very, very challenging because it's going to expose us to certain things that they say. They say it'll expose us to builder's remedy. That is probably true. But if there's the biggest builder's remedy possibility, it's really off the table. AES is in the coastal zone, as Jim Light has said, that stuff in the coastal zone, south Redondo, is not really going to be subject to builder's remedy. So that leaves North Redondo. Yes, it creates us. But again, we're in this horrible situation, kind of like FP. We could have addressed the problems with the police and fire stations a decade ago, but we didn't. We waited, and now we've got this giant bill that we really don't have a choice. I'm voting yes on FP, and it needs to be hopefully passed. It's got a really high bar to pass, but it's just necessary. We don't really have a choice. On this, we have a choice. Do we want to give up our ability to vote on zoning changes? And I will say that the zoning changes made by the council to comply with state mandates are the biggest, by far, zoning changes in the city. No developer.
Oh,
go ahead.
let me ask you this. You've said it several times, and I just want you to elaborate for the community. I keep hearing lawsuit here, lawsuit there. How many lawsuits are we actually involved in? And are these lawsuits that our city council, the current city council, some of them, got us into? And if that is the case, why would we trust them?
Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know how many counts. I know. I
don't know how many. It's so many. It's so many. It's so many.
It's a lot, but it's one. The case of the owner of the AES power plant site, Leo Pistilnikov. He brought this to case, and it was explained to me that actually the problem with the city's compliance with Article 27 and the housing element was not even part of either person's case. It was something the judge brought up and noticed. So, and I may have that wrong, but it's so screwy, but it stems from that. It stems from that case, and that case is on appeal. So we do not know the situation. We did win the first case, but there's overtime. We haven't won the game yet. The appeal is basically overtime. You got to win overtime. If we win that, then basically nothing will matter. If we lose that case and RB passes, that won't matter. So it's again, if the citizens vote this down, and it only takes one vote for this to win or lose, it's going to make, if it passes, they don't have to deal with some of these legal headaches, but it doesn't mean they go away completely. If it fails, they're going to have to work a lot harder, and the citizens will have their say, which the whole reason for Article 27 was this kind of thing. And let me say one thing about the zoning changes that the council makes when it comes in relation to the housing element. Those are, even though they're trying to comply with the state, those are by far the biggest zoning changes in the city. No developer can change things across the city on multiple districts in multiple spots in one fell swoop. They don't need to. They have a lot and they want to change it, fine. But this is a really sweeping thing. And yes, it does create situations. We had the last housing element, and I think this is why people in North Redondo are so bent out of shape about all this, is that last housing element put all the new housing up there, 4,000 units in North Redondo, nothing in South Redondo, nothing new in South Redondo. And so this is just bringing more attention to it. And it's just like, yeah, this is just a big problem. It's got to get solved. And they got to work way harder to make people, make housing elements more equitable and fair. If it comes down to a vote, they're going to have to propose housing elements every time to the voters. And
well, here's the thing.
I love it.
It's going to make them work harder. They deserve to work harder. They've created a mess that they tend to try to force us to deal with things that we have damn near begged them not to. They have put us in a situation where we can put it back on them. The reason we don't have the money for our fire and our police are because they have done things that have prevented growth. So if they have to work a little harder to get what they want, I think they deserve that. They deserve the opportunity to work hard and make it work for everybody and not just themselves. We are in this situation because they are selfish and because they are stifling growth in this city. So if they have to work harder, just let them work, because we've been working hard and we're not even in office. We work hard all the time. We're not in office. We're informing people. You have Nils, who didn't even tell his residents that they were going to be opening up that transitional housing in his area. Yes, work hard. You deserve to work hard. You wanted this job, take the job, do the job right, and don't act like we are supposed to save you from having to work hard. We do have another resident, Pat Healy. He wants to weigh in real quick. Hey, Pat.
One really quick thing about the transitional housing. I attended 2 meetings in District 1 regarding that transitional housing. The transitional housing, and boy, you wouldn't want to attend them. There were 3 police cars had to be called.
Wow.
It was. I'd never seen that. But anyways, go ahead. Yes, this so-called final ruling was filed by the Superior Court clerk on October 30th, 2023, which is really interesting. I thought on February 9th, 2024, there was a judgment filed by the city council of Redondo Beach as defendant. What I'm trying to say here is that the final judgment in the case that they're referring to was written by the city of Redondo Beach, and the judge just stamped it. So that's an interesting tidbit. which was kind of funny. It's really interesting though to me. What I thought was really, they were saying that there was no organized opposition to these things, or Mayor Light was saying that, which was really strange because when Measure E was being done, they appointed a person to not only write the opposition, but they also wrote them to write a person to run the agreement. So it's kind of strange that none of the ballot measures have a rebuttal, and stuff. So, and like I should say this publicly. I do agree with Just Money that the voices of opposition were indeed and deliberately quashed by City Council.
Well, where can where can the residents find more information on this? Because like you said before, Paul, it's a complicated issue. But I think let them know where they can find more information on this, and let's go around and just let the community know if you feel like it, how you're voting and why.
Okay, and there is no organized opposition to RB. There's no political action committee. There is no, election committee. There is no fundraising. It all just came to everyone's attention kind of at the last minute. And, even it surprised me because I didn't think it'd get on this ballot, but it did. Really, the only information you can get is from this. So and this might be backwards. So it's a very difficult thing to research, and it's easy to get wrong. But the upshot of everything is yes. And this is words of the mayor. It will remove the requirement for a vote on how zoning changes made by the city council to comply with state mandates, which are huge. Those are the big zoning changes. And that's what got people so pissed off with the last one. Now, and think about this. When they did the last housing element, Tonya and I were on the GPAC, and we proposed a housing element in those 8 years of work. It got completely turned upside down by the time it got to council. It went through planning commission, then the council did 3 iterations of a housing element. 2 of them failed that were sent to the state. And they finally just said, we're going to do as much, we're going to just pile on as much housing into this one area so they can't say no, or that's what it seemed like. And I've been told there was a lot of lobbying. I don't know if that's true or not, but there was a lot of people pushing the HCD, Housing Community Development at state, to approve and say we're in compliance with that last housing element. But that was made by basically just the city council. They made all those decisions on their own, and it passed unanimously. But you know what? I don't think that's the way this should be done. I mean, the whole reason we did the GPAC was to have this input on where the city should go and the zoning of the entire city. And then we turn around and just throw that all out the window and to say, no, these guys are going to do this one night and just get it done. So,
but residents should also understand it's not just they're throwing it out the window. They're throwing the money that they also spent on it out the window.
Yeah,
there was an exorbitant amount of money that they just decided, you know what, never mind.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're going to start doing this again. The general plans at the city council. It's going to be in the next few weeks, and they talked about it last night when it came to zoning for BCHD. These are giant documents and really complicated issues that, we talked about it for 8 years. These guys we're talking, now we're trying to discuss it in half an hour, trying to discuss it in 6-hour council meetings. It's just really, really tough to deal with. But again, if the city attorney and the city's mayor word is correct, which I believe it is, that yes, if RB passes, we will no longer have the right to vote on zoning changes in compliance with state mandates that are made by the council. So that's as simple as I can make this.
I want to.
All right.
Can I jump in here? I just want to say, I want to be clear. I don't want to vote on everything ever. Like with RBUSD, I don't worry about it. I trust the school board to do the right thing. With BCHD, I trust the board to do the right thing. My issue with RB is I used to trust them. I really did. And then I picked up the LA Times one day and I read an article, and I've met people. And when I was walking for Page, people were like, oh, yeah, people would like yell at Christian if they didn't I watched Nils made the community stand up and take an oath. Like, does our city council understand that a city council meeting isn't a jury room? Like, because I keep hearing like under oath, like even last night, somebody said, well, Vanessa said under oath, and that wasn't city council, but like, I truly understand if they understand the mechanics of like, I don't, I don't trust it anymore because Beach Town Charm isn't free. So I bought okay, you want local control. You don't want that. You don't want to trust these guys. Trust us. Okay, great. Well, when I go to the Galleria now, I mean, I still go to AMC. I made a wrong turn. There was a guy living in a tarp. In that mall, I remember when you'd have to fight for parking. A couple of my favorite restaurants come and go. The pier, it's like we used to go to Ruby's. We used to go, it's like and then I go to other places like El Segundo. They've built a lot. Like I meet a friend at a coffee shop there and it's booming. Or I go to True Food, or I go to Manhattan Beach and oh, they built a mall. Wow, this mall's kind of cool. Like people are hanging out, they're having a good time. So I bought this, and what I've done with RB, and I don't feel that passionate about it, to be honest. I'm going to vote no because I don't want to buy it. I don't trust them to tell me if I don't vote this way, I'm doomed. I don't believe that anymore. And if it passes, okay, well, maybe city council could be very different. What if city council, we don't know what city council is going to look like. So maybe if RB passes and they make all the decisions, great. I just don't like this a la carte. Like, well, let's just vote here and not vote there. Somebody said repeal it. Like, if we had a trustworthy city council that wasn't on the LA Times, and I'm not saying once, like, okay, anybody can have one bad article. There's repeated bad news. And is that changing? And I have had an email from somebody in city council that mentioned brand army and hundreds. So I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want an army. I want people who can collaborate and cooperate and get things done. I don't need every resident coming to a city council meeting saying everything they think. We'll never get anything done. Like the school district, like BCHD, let's elect people that can do their jobs and let them. That's basically like when I hire somebody, that's what I want. Do your job. If I'm micromanaging you, well, you're kind of fired, So I think what's great, I'm voting yes. I have signs in my yard for every bond. But you know what? I'm a little pissed off at some of them. Like, BC, I think they did everything. But no matter what they do, there's a group that's called Stop BCHD that if you email yes to FAR 50, they talk to the GPAC, and then the GPAC says, well, we got community feedback, And then what city council does, and this is what chills me to my core, is they go, well, we're not targeting BCHD. It's like, well, literally there's a group that stopped BCHD with an email that says yes to FAR 50. And schools aren't really impacted. So you're throwing them in there, but the schools are going. So it's like, I don't
trust them.
good about that. And that's making me question it. So until I have confidence, and until like people aren't saying like, I don't like this Handmaid's Tale-esque threaten. You don't do this. If you don't do this, we're all gonna die. I'm not.
Well, let me just say that this has the RB has a sunset clause. They ends it in 2035. When they think that maybe all this housing stuff might be solved. The problem with that is that's a long way away when it comes to doing housing elements. A lot of damage could be done, and people should understand if RB passes, future councils could change radically.
Right.
And suddenly everyone that might be supporting RB and saying, oh, all this could turn around, and suddenly like, hey, we're going to zone a bunch of stuff in South Redondo for housing. So it cuts both ways. So it's just it's a terrible situation we're
And
in.
Paul,
And
like
that's why it's sad state that Marie's got to feel like this. You end up not trusting anybody.
And I'd like to say out loud, like we love the Green Temple in Riviera Village, and I think Riviera Village is beautiful. And I don't think it's fair to say that South Redondo, I'm like, wow, they have a lot of like I think Redondo does relative to other cities. We have a lot of 2-and-a lots, we have a lot of condos, we have a lot. But I don't want this I don't think South Redondo and North Redondo need to fight. What I've never had answered about RB, and I've asked it out loud, why can't you promote a plan that voters would approve? Like, is the point of RB, is it a given that they can't propose a plan that we would vote on to approve? That's what I don't understand. It seems to me like they're taking away our vote because somehow our vote is an obstacle. And I don't understand why allowing us to vote, which they told us, they said, you got to do this. The voters have to decide.
Vote or die.
Every time I believe you, I either get a bill or another measure I have to digest. And I have a life. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go to
Most residents don't.
I want
Most
it to be
residents
like,
don't.
right? Like, and that's the thing. You explain this to people, and they're like, it's not cheap to live here. People have families, people have children, people have aging parents. Like, please, like you said, Tonya, please do your job and let us trust you. But when we pick up the newspaper and over again, we're reading about nefarious activities, not just, the front page article on nastiness, but over and over again. Well, then you want me to trust you? What are you doing to change? Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody can change. I want to believe in you. But, when the people that you like, when you're endorsing bullies and meanies and people who, if you don't agree with them, like the fact that I have to worry that I might get sued as a resident if I say something on a podcast, a local podcast, I'm not on 60 Minutes. Is this North Korea or North Redondo? Where do I live that I have to live like that?
It's interesting that we should feel like that when our mayor has sued the city several times. So those are the times we're actually living in. The actual mayor has sued and won, but they would be happy to sue one of us. Isn't that just so interesting? Anyways, guys, listen, this has been a great conversation. We definitely want the residents to get informed, be engaged, do not participate, and then be upset about how it turns out. So final words before we get out of here?
Yeah.
I will say that one thing that I would highlight from last night that our mayor, Jim Light, did acknowledge, he also was on the GPAC with us. He did acknowledge that the GPAC never discussed BCHD and the FAR. It was...
Woo, hallelujah.
And it's finally, and the people that says, oh, this came from, the community and it came from the GPAC, it didn't. All this stuff didn't start there with us. So, and he said it himself. So that was a big relief.
I want to high five you right now, Paul.
Very nice. And anyone that wants to do this, do their homework. Don't be intimidated by how confusing it is. It's confusing for us. I got it wrong, and I'm starting to formulate what is the most simple way to say it. There are huge implications either way this goes. So, hey, we all get to feel like, we're the mayor. We got to make the tough call. And so please at least vote. Go out and vote. Definitely go out and vote.
Just real quick. Yeah. I mean, I am opposed to this measure RB for a completely different reason, because I think that this is a tactic that could fail. It could actually open the city up to another lawsuit, because how it was managed, with no transparency, very little public input, I think this little thing could really fail in a court situation, so that's another reason why I think it was just a tactic. Because think about it, they're going to go to court and they're going to say that we had this referendum, from the voters when it wasn't required. when it has no purpose.
Nobody
So,
asked for this, so
yeah,
it is
nobody.
what it is.
They did, even the courts, So
Nobody asked for this.
they might
Miriam,
Well, we did
Right.
ask for it because
Yeah,
our
that's
Measure DD did pass. Voters approved Measure DD,
Right.
but it had huge unintended consequences that we're dealing with today.
right.
Miriam,
No, the whole thing's shady. Look, anytime that they have these things come out there, they have a responsibility to inform the public. And now they're going to be like, oh, well, they could have come and spoken at the city council. Nobody has time for all that. Y'all need to do a better job of letting people know. Like, everyone knows all about Measure FP. They did all the stuff, etc. That's great. Let's vote yes on FP. Let's get a better fire police station.
Yeah.
Because now we were informed about it and we understand it. But this is so random. It's like out of nowhere, sketchy as hell. Voting no is the way to go, unless for some reason they suddenly decide to do like some kind of mass education and inform us. But no, I don't think so. This I don't like. I mean,
well,
they've
like
done
Paul said, it would require them to do work, and well,
no.
they don't want to have to do that.
Like when they were trying to get rid of Christian Horvath, you guys remember that whole thing was so shitty.
Yeah.
Put as much energy into informing the public about this as you did into that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? No.
No. All right. Well, listen, guys. Thank you guys for being here. I hope this helped a little bit, but please, 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 please get informed and vote. That's all we're asking. Let your voice be heard. Then they can say, this is what the people wanted. And we'll move on to informing you about something else, because that is exactly what we do. So you guys take it easy, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Tonya.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.